Why did you join the program?
There's something called like a Dante network. You're able to connect those musical instruments to an actual computer network. That to me was crazy. Musical instruments, yeah.
Got you connected to IT.
Got me connected to IT, right.
I think it is proper that I give you an introduction for what this podcast is about, what to expect, and who this is for.
I couldn't even calculate how many hours per se, but if you imagine 7 or 8 months of studying for 3 to 4 hours a day, and working and doing everything else. In the beginning, I felt like I was trying to seek out too many resources.
What does it mean to break into tech?
Right, because I knew that it wasn't going to be something that was easy, immediate, instant.
Most of the people that I meet, they have an expectation that's not real about what working in IT is and how to get there. And it is most of the time centered around making a lot of money and getting there very quickly.
I knew for a fact that I could not enter a field without having experience prior. The phrase break into technology isn't something that you should focus too much on. What you should focus on is understanding that it's more a transition.
But when did you get the first sign that you're being successful?
When I failed the first test.
Directly with us. I'm excited about this. This is season 1, episode 1 of the Skills at Will podcast. I want to welcome you to the first ever episode of the Skills at Will podcast. Season 1. I'm Ariel, and I'll be your host. Since this is the first season of the Skills at Will podcast, I think it is proper that I give you an introduction for what this podcast is about, what to expect, and who this is for. Well, before I do that, I'm going to introduce you to my co-host, Ariel.
Thanks for having me, Jared.
It's a pleasure to have you down here in Florida. You flew all the way from New York.
Right.
Wow, that's excellent.
A long trip, yep, but it's good to be here.
Well, we're going to allow the audience to be introduced to you, to get to know your background and the wealth of information that you can bring to them.
Right.
And but before I do that, I'd like to explain to the people, why did we decide to have a podcast? And since when we've been working on that, and what should they expect from this podcast, and who this is for in the first place?
Right.
Number one, this podcast is for people who aspire to be technologists and who are working in technology and would like to grow. Number two, what you should expect from this podcast is that it's going to provide information about the career paths of successful technologists and step-by-step instruction that anyone could follow to achieve the same level of success. Why did we decide to do that? Well, we have decided to do that because we believe that there is a void, there is a gap between people who aspire to be technologists and becoming technologists. What I mean by that is that a lot of people would like to be technologists, but they don't know where to start, how to get to the level that they would like to get. They may have seen some people online, they may have heard about people who have succeeded in technology, but they don't necessarily know where to start and how these people got to where they have gotten. Well, this gap where you want to get there, but you don't know how to start, you don't know how to get there, we're going to bridge this gap by connecting you to those people who have succeeded. We're going to do that virtually, but when comes time, we're going to tell you about our platform where you can come into our community and connect directly with us. I'm excited about this. This is season 1, episode 1 of the Skills at Will podcast. The topic for today is, what does it mean to break into tech? Well, we're going to find out if that truly exists, if that's truly possible for you to just break into tech, and we're going to give you behind the scene access to how we got started, where we are now, and give you the step-by-step instruction that you could easily follow to get to a level similar to mine or Ariel. I'm Ariel, and I'll be the host of the Skills at Will podcast. Today I have with me Ariel. Ariel is a coach in our platform, skillsatwill.com, where he coaches aspiring professionals every week on how to become proficient information technology and cybersecurity professionals. Well, Ariel, I'd like to get a little bit more information about who you are. I can tell people about who you are, but it's a different thing if you say it yourself.
If it comes from me, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to be here again, Jared. Thanks for having me. And it's kind of surreal to be sitting here with you doing this podcast where we talk about our experiences, our perspective, because I remember when I was on the other side, trying to figure out what I wanted to do and how to do it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know steps, paths. IT was confusing. There's so many different disciplines. There's so many different things to do.
Yeah.
So, being a former Skills at Will client really helped put a lot of it into perspective and helped remind me that, this is a process. And throughout the last couple of years, I've been able to work with you and study and achieve some successes with some certifications, landing a role in IT, and then now continuing the process, showing people what I've done, how we helped each other, and how we created a community of professionals supporting one another.
Oh, that's excellent. I mean, that's exactly what we want this to be, right? A place where information can be provided to whoever is looking for it. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background. How did you get started into that?
Right. So early on, I say a couple years ago, I was looking for resources to study and do research and find out more information on IT and how I can start developing the foundation to transition to a career in IT. So throughout that process, I came across Skills at Will. And I met you at the time where we started to develop a foundation of developing some basics and learning some basics. And then on my own, I continued to do research. I continued to look things up, and I decided that I wanted to get a certification for IT. And throughout that process, we met and we decided to create a schedule, create a plan where I could stay consistent and continue to study and continue to do research and stuff like that. So went through that process, and I was able to achieve the certification. Achieved 2 certifications in that time span. And then we began the process of, all right, so now let's look into, landing a potential role. And I was able to, over the course of some time, land a role in IT and begin the career as a junior network specialist within the school district. So I'm excited that I was able to start the process of deciding what I wanted to do and begin by achieving a certification through studying, through that diligence, and then landing the role, and then continuing this process of not only helping others do what I did, but continue to cultivate myself and work my way up as well. So
wow,
it's been a long journey.
That's such a powerful introduction area.
Right.
And it's powerful to me because it speaks about your character, but very importantly also it speaks about your diligence,
right?
Looking for information, looking for quality information. And it also speaks about how you were able to persevere through many months as we went through the process of helping you understand what it takes to become an IT professional,
right?
Connecting you with the right resources, but very importantly for you to consume those resources. It's one thing for us to say, Ariel, you need to know this, you need to know that.
Right.
And I had to learn this, I had to learn that. This is the resource I used. But it's another thing for you to do it yourself.
Right.
We're going to dive into this when you come back. All right, Ariel, let's dive into your ability to not only pursue your dream, but also to remain motivated.
Right.
Right. Over a certain period of time. So you were working at Mercedes-Benz.
Right.
As a car parts specialist for many years. And at some point, you decided that you wanted to become a technologist.
Right.
Why?
I have some experience with musical instruments and audio, front of house audio, and I started to see how over time, especially throughout the COVID pandemic, technology was rapidly advancing, and the capabilities that we were able to, achieve with musical instruments and networks and combine the two really piqued my interest. And I was surprised that, you could create a network where you could have musical instruments and computers and devices all managed together. And I thought that was very interesting, and I wanted to learn more about it. And it was that really was the catalyst to start looking into it more and finding out what resources I could. Musical instruments, yeah.
Got you connected to IT.
Got me connected to IT, right.
So you wanted to help me understand that more. Right. IT and musical instruments.
Right.
I wouldn't ever think that they have something in common.
They're related, right?
But how are they related?
So with musical instruments and stuff like that, usually when you're playing at a venue,
Yeah.
You have musical instruments that are connected to either amplifiers and speakers and monitors and things along those lines, and they're wired to a mixer, and they're usually just played through speakers, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
As technology started to advance, there's something called like a Dante network where you're able to connect those musical instruments to an actual computer network, and you can monitor and receive the audio, the sound, everything in one centralized location, and you can control them, you can change settings, you can do pretty much whatever you wanted to do. So that to me was crazy. That bridge between musical instruments and computer networks, that I found to be super, super interesting.
Yeah.
So nowadays, there's a lot of there's digital mixers, there's digital integrations with a lot of musical stuff, and I found that to be very, very interesting, and that's what made me want to learn about
IT
more.
because you already knew about musical instruments,
Right,
and so now you wanted to see, my musical instrument, I can connect them to the Dante network,
right,
and they speak with one another, and I can control them through that network,
right,
and that invited you to learn more about how that network works,
right.
and so you decided, okay, I'll find out about technology. But it was just a curiosity, or did you ever think that you will end up working in IT?
It was curiosity at first.
Mhm.
I definitely didn't think I was going to end up working in IT or technology or transition. But as I learned more, I wanted to continue learning more.
Yeah.
And that, in my opinion, kind of like started like a snowball effect, to where you're learning about one subject leads into another subject, and then it goes into another subject. It's kind of like a cascading effect of, you just want to continue finding out exactly how whatever infrastructure or whatever you're using is set up, and how it works, and how you as a user can have control over it. So
Makes sense.
I think that's important.
That makes sense. Now, at what point did you decide that you want this to be a career?
I decided I wanted it to be a career when I met people like you. As I was doing research, and I was seeking out mentors and people that could explain more information, I came across people like you who are actually working in the field, and were able to explain and break down, how they got there, what to expect, what to do to get there. And I think that really made the final decision. I made the final decision then, like I wanted to do the exact same thing.
Then what happened?
Then what happens at that point is I joined your program, that initial cohort.
Why? That would be the question. That one of the types of questions that I like to ask.
Right.
Why did you join the program?
Why did I join the program? I joined the program because it was the only way that I could expose myself to what is necessary in the IT field.
Yeah.
I didn't have the experience. I didn't have the skills. I didn't know exactly what I needed to do in order for a job to want to hire me to do it. So I needed to position myself to be exposed to the equipment, be exposed to the standards, be exposed to what to expect. And it was that really solidified the decision to want to join IT.
I know quite a bit about the process of you joining the academy,
Right.
Really our coaching service. And I spoke to you very early on.
Right.
We had an integrated process back then where people would put themselves in a waiting list. And I was the only person calling them at the time. And, when I had a chance, and so at some point I got to your file, and then I called you. And, we started a very good conversation, and I like to lay down the foundation and tell people the truth about what it takes and set the right expectation. That's
Right.
what I want to say. Because most of the people that I meet, they have an expectation that's not real about what working in IT is and
Right.
how to get there. And it is most of the time centered around making a lot of money and getting there very quickly.
Right.
And you don't need to go to college, you don't need education, you don't need to learn anything, you're going to get there. And when I meet people like that, I always do my very best to set the right expectation and help them understand that it is not like that. But you were not like that.
Right.
But still, I always have this other aspect of me where I try to tell the people that it takes effort, and I try to, give them a little bit more information than necessary, so that they can understand it's not a walk on the park.
Right.
But with you, you said, no, you don't need to convince me. I'm already convinced.
Right. Because I knew that it wasn't going to be something that was easy, immediate, instant. I understood that through my own research, it was going to take some time for sure.
Yeah. So what did your research reveal? Did you meet some other program? Did you do some studies? Walk me through the step before, or from the time that you discovered the Dante network and you wanted to learn more about networking to the time that we met.
Right. So at that point, started looking up resources, YouTube videos. And as you look up videos, your algorithm starts to point you in the direction of other videos, and you come across resources on YouTube and you start watching videos and you start to see how what you're doing, how it's made up, and people are starting to explain that. And that piqued my interest even more. Continue to watch videos, continue to come across resources. I got to a point where I was looking into taking, practice tests for certs to see where do I stand, right now as someone who wants to transition into IT. Where do I stand? And by doing those things, I realized that I don't know what I think I know. And it helped me understand, like, I need to create a plan. I need to create a way for me to stay consistent in my studies, continue to be diligent, so that way over time I can polish the skills needed to actually represent, a technologist. So doing that over and over and over again through the summer, watching videos, come across resources, joining the program.
But before you join the program, so I'm trying to understand from the time that you decided that you want to learn more about technology.
Right.
To the time that you joined our program, you have had the opportunity to learn quite a bit of things.
Right.
Tell me about that process. How did you find the resources that you consumed? How easy was it to consume these resources? How did you find the information about the field of technology to understand how to move, what to study, how to study it, and so on and so forth?
Right. I give a lot of credit to social media. There's a lot of resources on social media. There's a lot of people on social media who share information about IT. For example, I didn't know there were so many disciplines in IT, networking, cybersecurity. I had no clue that it was broken down that way. And as I started to learn more, I learned that, cloud computing is discipline of IT. And that's definitely something that I've looked into and I've heard about before, and I was definitely interested about before, but I knew I couldn't immediately become a cloud analyst or specialist or whatever that is. So I had to continue doing that research, and I spent the time just coming across all those resources before I came into those classes.
How long was that?
I would say maybe 3 months.
3 months.
3 or 4 months.
And so you've been learning for about 3 months.
Right.
Okay. So at that point, did you have a clear view of what path to take?
Absolutely not.
Why?
Because the more I learned, the more I realized that it's a very, very broad discipline. And you can't just think that you're going to join on a limb. I needed to find an actual career path to get into IT and then work my way up. So that is what pointed me in the direction of resources like, Skills at Will and people like you.
So you didn't know the path.
I didn't know
you
the
wanted
path.
to find a path.
Yeah.
But you'd been researching for 3 months.
Right.
And you learned about cloud computing and all of those things.
Right.
What else did you need to find a path? What was missing?
I thought certifications were missing.
Okay.
Because, again, social media, a lot of people were talking about certifications. They were talking about things like CompTIA, things like Cisco. And I said, okay, so if I don't have that, maybe that's what I need to get in order to get a job.
Okay.
So that's what I thought I needed to pursue, and I started pursuing that.
Okay. And what happens?
Then I realized that I don't have access to the actual equipment that I need to learn about.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why you did that?
Well, how do I call myself an IT specialist and I don't know how to configure the equipment needed to configure for the job?
So you came to that realization.
I came to that realization.
That's magical, man.
Yeah.
I came to that realization at some point as well myself.
Right.
But not that early in my journey. It took me a lot longer. We'll talk about that. I don't want to derail from the topic of today.
Right.
But that's interesting to me, that you discover that you're learning. At that point, you started learning, right?
Right.
Seems like you're learning theories.
Right.
And you realize that, I need more than that. I need to do it.
Right.
Then what happens next after you make that realization?
When I made that realization, I also realized that I can't afford to buy the equipment needed to either create a home lab or whatever it may be to do the hands-on work. I can't afford it.
How did you know you can't afford?
Oh, well, when you do the research and you look up switches, you look up routers and firewalls and things along those lines.
So you already knew about those things?
Oh, yeah, sure. I had a small understanding of how a network is made up of. I had seen through my research, like I said, I had spent 3 or 4
And
months,
especially the Dante network.
especially through
Because
the,
I think
right.
you are fortunate, unlike many people, and
Right.
unlike me. Some people wouldn't even understand that there's a router, a switch, and all of those things. So you knew about these and you realize that you can't afford them.
Right.
And what happens immediately before you discover our program? How did that happen? How did it click that we could be of use to you?
Through my research, I was looking for sort of mentorship or coaching that could, if not expose me directly to the equipment, but could at least show me and teach me about the equipment. So that way I have an understanding. And when I do get the chance to finally do the hands-on work, I'd be able to catch up. So through looking through mentorship, I was able to find programs that provided, the hands-on training or the hands-on coaching on how to recognize and differentiate these devices and then set up these networks and these labs and these things. And it was very difficult to actually do it yourself. So the program was very, very attractive, being that it not only went over the theory that I learned, but actually gave me the opportunity to do the hands-on work with the equipment.
So you found all of that about our program.
Right.
And that made sense to you.
And that made sense to me. I said, oh, this has to be it, because I'm learning on one end, but I have to practice on another end. And here comes a program that is telling me, listen, if you join, we're going to go through a process of learning and doing the hands-on work.
Yeah.
And that's what made the difference.
Yeah. Well, we no longer do it that way.
Right.
Because we no longer believe that, through our research over the past 4 years, we no longer believe that someone with zero experience in information technology should start with configuring advanced technology.
Right.
And you and I, we have worked together for a couple of years now.
Right.
And we have proven through research that we've conducted with you as a test subject,
Right,
that it doesn't work that way, that you can't just come out of nowhere and then suddenly you start configuring advanced
right,
dynamic routing. You start configuring advanced networking concepts. You see what I'm saying to you?
even subnetting was difficult.
Yeah.
Even before we configured the stuff, we had to create the diagrams of all the IP addresses that we're going to be assigning. And that was extremely complex.
Not just that it's complex, but we found out that it's a problem because those terms are very advanced.
Right.
And you need a foundation. And you can't get the foundation without taking time to go through the basics.
Right.
And after you learn the basics, then you need to practice the basics. And you can't practice the basics without really having a place where you practice. And we believe that the best place to practice is where you work, like a job, an entry-level job.
Right.
And so we have now converted our program from a program where on day one, we would give people access to routers, switches, firewalls, and we would start showing them those advanced concepts, to a program where we break it into two types of people: aspiring IT pros and working IT pros. Aspiring IT pros, we'll put them in a program where they're introduced to the basics,
Right.
and where we help them set the right expectation. We give them the exact content that they need to study on a daily basis while they're connected to experts who are their mentors in our program to help them remain on track and to help them demystify the profession of information technology and cybersecurity.
Breaking it. Yep.
Before we brought that to market, we tested it on you.
Right.
I remember after the cohort that you participated in, we spent 3-4 months learning advanced Cisco, Palo Alto, Splunk, and all of these things.
Right.
And I told you, I don't believe this is the way to do it. I don't believe I can teach you how to be an architect when you have never been even an administrator.
Right.
You have zero experience. And I think we're going to need to turn this around. And the new model is going to be that you're going to be an entry-level professional.
Right.
And I'm going to show you how to become an entry-level professional. And you say, yeah, I like that. I'd like to try that.
At least developing the foundation first
Yeah.
before you build on that foundation. Because we were building on a shaky foundation. And after we stopped, a lot of that information, it was difficult to retain,
Yeah.
trying to do that stuff again. So doing it this way, building the foundation first, developing the good habits first is what really made the difference and allowed me to stay consistent, after joining.
And so I made it clear that we're going to test this right now.
Right.
And have a whole framework where we want you to learn the skills of an IT support specialist,
Right.
skills of a cloud, entry level cloud professional,
Right.
and the skills of an entry level cybersecurity professional. And I get you the material. The program even funded your studies so that we can document.
Right.
How long would it take you? How hard would it be for you? And how far can this take you?
Right.
And this did take you somewhere.
It was a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
I won't even lie to you, because one of the intimidating things is when doing research, you often come across too much information.
Yeah.
You often come across resources that say one thing with a particular language, and you have resources that say another thing with a particular language. And it could be confusing when you don't know what is right and you're learning it this way. And when you now get into the enterprise environment and they speak a different way, and you're kind of lost.
Yeah.
So it was needing to find out what is like the industry standards and adhere to that, build the foundation of that. So that way later on the line, I could get to those more advanced and complex, disciplines and things like that. So starting off with the foundation was key before building up and scaling up from there.
But in our case, we were testing out. We were testing out
Right.
a product, an idea that we have where we believe that we can help anyone who aspires to be an IT or cybersecurity professional learn any skill they want at will.
Right.
But there are a few conditions that have to be met. And before we started to tell people about that, we wanted to test it and prove that it can work as possible. It worked for you.
Right.
And we're going to dive into that and hope that we can make it work for others.
That sounds good to me.
If you're watching, stay tuned. Why did the idea of having the hands-on experience appeal to?
Oh, well, that has to, in my opinion, it had to validate everything that I was learning, because we would often see social media posts telling you that you can do this or that you can do that. And I was always weary of that, because even from, my experience working in the field, in a completely different, completely different field, that you could know something, that's one thing, but to be able to do it in the field, to be able to actually support a user with whatever it may be, it's a completely different thing as well. So how can I say that I want to be an IT professional, or I am an IT professional, but a lot of the equipment or stuff that's used in the environment, I've never used it before. It didn't make any sense to me. So as I was studying the theory, I realized that I have to do the hands-on work. I have to actually develop the skill myself and practice it over and over and over again to really validate what I know.
Having the hands-on experience was very critical to you, and you knew that was important.
Right.
So you found a program where you could get hands-on experience.
Exactly.
And you got into this program. What happened?
Well, then after that point is when, through the program, I developed, or the program helped me develop like a schedule of how to study, how often to study, and how that pairs with the hands-on labs we were doing, the training that we were doing. So it was a continuous process of learning and then applying that in an actual staging environment at the same time. And that was exactly what I was looking for.
And check this, the original version of the program was different.
Right.
You see, when I founded this, my thought was that, hey, I found my way in IT somewhat miraculous. I spent 9 years in college and pursuing an IT profession. 7 years in college, and 2 more years pursuing this profession, 9 in total. Only to find out that I didn't necessarily understand the right path to take.
Right.
And once I found out what path to take, which was to learn hands-on, and I did a CCNA certificate and then a CCNP and so on and so forth, and the rest became history. So I got angry and I said that I've got to show people that hands-on is the way to go. Now, the problem with that is I thought if I give you access to Cisco, Palo Alto, hardcore equipment on day one, that would make you get there faster.
Right.
But together, you and I and all of the other people who have gone through the first version of our program have learned together that if someone has never worked in IT before, you don't need to teach them advanced concepts. Not only is it going to be extremely difficult for them to learn them, but even if they were to learn them, nobody would trust that they have them.
Right.
It's kind of like showing up and saying, hey, I'm a NASCAR driver. I want you to hire me as a NASCAR driver. Have you ever driven a car before? No, I've never driven any car before at all. But the best driver has taught me how to drive a car.
Yeah.
And now you can let me drive the NASCAR.
Right.
Nobody would believe that, right?
Exactly.
Same thing for technology. Even if by a miracle you were to learn advanced concepts, no employer would hire you. So we've learned that.
Right.
And so we said, we're going to make a difference between the entry-level person, the one who has no experience, and the one that has some experience. For the one who has no experience, we're going to provide them with a framework that helps them become an entry-level professional.
Right.
And that framework has what we call the micro skill schedule, which is what you're referring to. For those who don't know,
Right.
we developed this together through trial and error and through the research and development that we've gone through with you as a test subject. And so now we hoped all throughout that this would work.
Right.
And it would prove two things. Number one, that the way to go as a person who has never worked in IT is to seek to be an entry-level professional rather than a mid-career professional,
Exactly.
right, from day one.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot that can go inside of what I just said here. That can mean a lot of things. An entry-level professional means that you are trusted with basic tasks, not advanced tasks. And that gives you the opportunity to learn, slowly,
Right.
not necessarily slowly, but to learn progressively. And also, it doesn't mean that you get paid a lot. A mid-career or an advanced professional, that's probably what everybody pictures themselves as when they think about working in IT or cybersecurity, gets paid more, but they are required to know a lot more. They are trusted with very advanced problems to solve. And so if you have no experience and you're put in front of these problems, it won't work.
Exactly.
So we've proven that the way to go is to seek an entry-level role first.
Right.
And we also decided that it's necessary that the professional now knows exactly what to study.
Exactly.
And that's the idea of the micro skill schedule. Every day the person wakes up, we tell them go and study this and that, and come to the live coaching session, and so on and so forth. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
But now, what I want to find out, Ariel, is you started this. You were the first client in the new version of our program.
Right.
Tell me about that experience.
It was awesome, to say the least, but a lot of trial and error. Especially not necessarily being by myself, but having the responsibility of, all right, since I'm the first and now I'm going through the process of learning the micro schedule or following the micro learning schedule,
Micro skill
schedule. It was completely different for me because, it's not like I haven't studied before, but it's now, all right, I'm studying these specific things at these specific times, and I have to continue and follow that. And as you continue to grow, the subjects and topics start progressively become, more complex. And it was the better way, in my opinion, of
It was what?
the better way of learning basic tasks, fundamental tasks, and then
Is that a New York thing? The better way.
no, that's just my personal accent probably, but the better way of just putting a little emphasis on it, better way of learning and retaining the information because, there's so many acronyms, there's so many, things that you'll come across in while you're studying. So I went through a lot of trial and error. You always reinforce the idea when we met every week to develop the right habits. And that is what helped me stay grounded and continue that trial and error process. So where now a couple of months later, it started to come together. Everything started to come together a little bit better.
Okay, so I informed you one day that I no longer want to teach you advanced concepts.
Right.
I'm going to stop that. And as the first client, what I wanted to get is to try the program on you. And we were absolutely clear that you were a test subject.
Right.
And we're going to prove two things. Number one, that you have to pursue skills in IT support, cloud fundamentals, and cybersecurity fundamentals.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you exactly what to study every day.
Right.
In what we call the micro skills category.
Right.
You're going to study this. And I'm going to be available for you to answer your questions when you get confused, and for me to check, are you on track?
Right.
And for me to continue to help you set the right expectation and continue to pursue this goal and continue to give you the guidance. And that guidance includes, when it comes time for you to take the exam, I help you schedule the exam. When it comes time for you to have a resume, update your resume, I help you update the resume. And we're going to dive into the resume. I remember once we had a professional to create the resume, and come to find out, we learned that it wasn't the best resume. We ended up creating a better resume ourselves, even if we're not resume professionals. So I was there to help you with this. And I remember as well, when it comes time for you to go to a job interview, we would do mock interviews and so on and so forth. Lots of different resources that I would put at your disposal.
Right.
But your job would be to follow, right, these the framework, follow the plan.
Right.
And our expectation is that this would help you acquire the skills. You will gain the skill if you do this things.
Right.
And number two, we also hope that this will take you to an entry level IT or cybersecurity world.
Right.
Did that work?
That worked. It did. It took its time, but through the trial and error, through the consistent checking in, through and then what you said, what was important too about the resume, which came way later in the process, by the way. But it's just being able to check in was a game changer. We were testing two things. We were testing the framework, number one, but also the community aspect of every weekend we check in, I speak with you, and we go over.
Not weekend, every week, I think. It was every Monday.
It was every Monday. Yeah, right. Every Monday. We would check in. Oh, it was Monday at the time, right?
Yeah.
Check in on Mondays, and we would go over, all right, what did you do this weekend, or what are you going to do this week? And with your experience, you would, all right, because you are a professional and you've been through this already, you would say, all right, I like that idea, or okay, you should tweak this and tweak that. And again, through the trial and error, we started to refine this process that has turned into this framework that we're hoping to help other people with.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
And so this worked. You ended up learning the skill, but you mentioned that you had to remain consistent.
Right.
Why did you have to remain consistent? And first, what does that mean?
To stay consistent. So it ties into the idea of breaking into technology, right? I knew for a fact that I could not enter a field without having experience prior. It's just, in my opinion, it just didn't make sense to me. I can't speak on behalf of anybody else. So what I had to do is show consistency over time, to show, the diligence over time, in order for people or like prospective employers to, okay, they while I'm being vetted or looked into, they can see that over time, certain things were happening. There was a progress. If I achieved a certain success with the certificate, okay, what am I doing with it? What's happening after that? So those were the things that I knew I needed to do in order to continue to cultivate myself. And it wasn't easy. It was definitely a process, but having a framework, having a community was definitely a game changer.
But the consistency as well, I think it had to do with, you needed to be consistent in the pursuit of the skill.
Right.
And that you studied every day.
Sure.
And that you showed up to the coaching sessions.
Right.
You never missed one.
Yeah.
And that was useful to me as well. And I'll tell you why. That's because here I am. I want to build a company that helps IT and cybersecurity professionals find their way, know the path that successful professionals took for them to follow. But it's a hard thing. It has never been done the way we're trying to do it, right? And I had to be consistent as well. And you showing up every week, I had to remember that I have an appointment with Ariel. And at some point, I no longer had to think about it because it was always the same time. When comes 6 p.m.,
Yep.
one day I have an appointment with Ariel.
Yep.
Sometimes I'm in the car. Sometimes I have to take my kids to swimming lesson or other stuff. And you know about those. But
Exactly.
I would show up.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that consistency, in my opinion, I think that was the foundation.
Just showing up.
And that you continued to learn the skills.
Right.
And you continue to build the habits. And I remember that at some point, we decided that in my company, Magna Cyber, we're having clients that need help that you can provide.
Right.
And I hired you as a person to help those clients.
Right.
I think that was useful, I would presume. But more importantly, I think I arrived to that conclusion because of your due diligence, and
Right.
because of the skills that you were acquiring.
Exactly.
And as a person who was there with you, I knew the skills you had. Although somebody else probably would know, but I knew those skills. And I would trust you with, this person needs to solve their email problem.
Right.
And you would go and you would solve that problem. But let's fast forward a few months later. How long would you say? How many hours did you say that you put in from the time that we decided that for someone to quote unquote break into tech
Right.
with no experience, they have to learn IT support skills, cybersecurity fundamental skills, and cloud fundamental skills.
Right.
From the time that we decided that, and not only do they have to learn it, they have to show proof that they have those skills.
Exactly.
And those this proof is a combination of many things. One of them is having authorities validate that.
Right.
And that's through certificates like CAPTIA, Cisco, and Microsoft and others.
Exactly.
Palo Alto certificates, but also through potentially experience that they have had through internship and others,
Mhm.
that they can show to a potential employer that they have done this work.
Right.
So from the time that we decided this is the best way to get in, to, let's say, the time that you started to see some progress, and I would say progress here when you earned the A+ certificate.
Right.
How long did it take?
We started around August.
Yeah.
Started studying, started doing the research, started planning out the approach to the A+ certificate. I roughly studied for, again, still working, still, doing my normal day-to-day, but I would say roughly 3 hours,
Every day?
4 hours a day. And that includes, breaks in between work, lunches, things along those lines. Anytime I could just, take a second to just, review, I'd say 3-4 hours a day. And over the course of the next, 7 months, 8 months, I did that, including our meetings, including our check-ins. So, I couldn't even calculate how many hours per se, but if you imagine 7 or 8 months of studying for 3 to 4 hours a day, and working and doing everything else,
But let me ask you, why did it take so long?
trial and error.
What do you mean by trying to?
Trial and error. In the beginning, I felt like I was trying to seek out too many resources.
But I remember as well that I gave you the exact resource
Right.
that I believe you needed to consume.
Right.
And not only you had the best, you had a full package of resources,
Mhm.
which is one of the resources that we recommend to our clients here.
Mhm.
And you had theory, and you
Mhm.
had a practice environment, and you had the live coaching session to check in with me.
Mhm.
Why did you have to go through the trial and error?
Because I still didn't know what I was doing. Although we had an idea of where I wanted to get to, I still didn't know what I was doing, honestly. It was still learning the right habits to build in order to maintain that consistency, what we were talking about, and then to do that progressively.
Yeah, that makes sense. But you mentioned that you still didn't know what you were doing.
Right.
And now you have the content that you were told, consume this.
Consume. Yeah.
Why is this not enough?
It wasn't broken down in a digestible way. It was, the information was put out there, it was available, lessons were there, read it, and then that was it. And at times I felt like the way it was presented to me could be a little bit overwhelming. So I wanted to find just better ways or people that or resources that condensed the same information and that made it, more palatable. So that is what was the process in the beginning. And then I was reading the books and trying to compare the books with the resources.
So the resources,
Yeah.
they did not necessarily match your learning style.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
Right.
And I had problems like that too in the beginning.
Right.
I remember that I took a class by a guy named Kevin Wallace.
Mhm.
Well, first I had a book that I was reading. And then sometimes I don't feel like reading the book.
Mhm.
So I bought a video course by Kevin Wallace.
Right.
And sometimes I don't feel like listening to the video course. Sometimes I find he speaks too much and it's too long. And I go back to the book. And sometimes, I find the book to be too long. So I think it's something like that that you're trying to say that
Right.
you experienced. Right?
Right. Just bouncing back and forth from thinking that there's an easier method, by watching a video or something like that.
And was there an easier method?
Truthfully, nah. There isn't anything that's easier. What you have to understand is you have to develop the right habits, like you said, to maintain the consistency that you're looking for. And ultimately that's it. Because after a while, as you start to understand the process a little bit better, you start to develop the habits a little bit better, you're able to now maintain that and stick to it. So yeah, like you said, I was bouncing back and forth to research, just thinking that I can find something easier. But ultimately, every time we checked in, it was just, all right, stick with the plan. And
That's what I did.
Yeah. All right. And in the process too, you helped me learn a lot of things. You helped me learn about different resources that are out there and that you consume to augment the official training materials that I recommended to you and so on and so forth.
Right.
And you made notes of what works, what doesn't work. And these notes are the ones that you're sharing now with the community that you're coaching in our program.
Right. Right.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So it's my preference, on how I take notes and how I choose to define, whatever it is that I'm learning. I want to visually kind of see it in my mind by seeing certain resources and seeing a visual depiction, and then taking that and documenting it in a way where when I need to study it again, I have the pertinent information and the information that I need to then use while taking a test or whatever it may be. So it was combining both of those that, helped me learn my study style and have what's important without the fluff and stuff that, could, distract you and, create, delay the process. So it was learning the process, developing the habits, and now taking all the note taking and everything, putting it together, and now presenting it through the framework.
Yeah, fantastic. And so when did you get the first sign that you're being successful?
When I failed the first test.
What was that test?
It was the core one for the A+.
TIA.
Copy A+, yeah. When I
remember
failed.
you recorded, I asked you to record some videos.
Yeah.
You still have them?
I do. Yeah.
Fantastic. We're going to put them in this podcast.
Sure.
Yeah.
To show exactly what I went through.
The emotions. What I wanted to capture was, how did you feel when you fell? So when you fell, you said that was the sign of success?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I've always said this, again, failing a test is a way for you to measure how well you prepared for that test or how well you understood the material for that test.
Heck, you passed the core one the first time.
No, I failed it.
You failed it.
I failed it. I passed it the second time. I passed the core 2 the first time, and then we kept moving on from there. Mm-hmm.
No, I think it was the other way around.
It could have been the other way around, actually. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Core 1 I passed. Core 2 I failed.
Yeah, core 1, you came and said,
it was a...
I passed the core.
You're right.
It was a breeze. Yes. It was core 2 because it went into the advanced topics that we were talking about.
Yeah.
But like I said, failure didn't intimidate me at all. I knew that it was because, all right, I don't know something and I now need to take the time. And I'm lucky enough when you don't pass the test, it tells you what you need to go back and go over and review. And I knew that I needed to do that. And it gave me the opportunity to go back over the material, study again, make sure I understand the language, make sure I understand exactly what they're talking about. And especially with the performance-based questions, how do you approach taking performance-based questions? How do you do that? And the performance-based questions are the hands-on things that they're going to be asking you. So, I went over it again, did practice tests, went over the process again. I didn't allow the failure to become something that would discourage me, and I used it to listen, let me find out what I need to work on and then move on from there. So yeah, that was the sign that I hit a challenge, I hit a hurdle, and now now I know what I need to do to now effectively get past this hurdle and achieve the success that I was looking for.
Fantastic. So when you went to take the test, now you start to realize that you're learning things,
Right.
but you don't know enough. The test was a mirror for you to engage yourself.
Right.
So, Ariel, we're talking today about what does it really mean to break into tech, and I think we're getting it from your point of view. And if you were to summarize this into one word, I think both of us, we don't believe people just break in. We believe that people grow and grow through it, right? So what would you say someone needs to take into account as they want to get in?
The phrase break into technology isn't something that you should focus too much on. What you should focus on is understanding that it's more a transition, and transitions with everything take a certain amount of time for it to happen. And depending on where you want to go, depending on what you want to achieve, depending on your goals, you effectively need to create a path or a plan to get there. And that plan, that path is going to validate that you effectively learned and you've effectively done what you should do to get to the point that you want to be at. So focus on the transition, focus on the journey, focus on the process.
Plan.
And make a plan.
And I think the plan is the most difficult.
Yeah.
Through my own experience and yours as well, and probably countless others, if you don't know
Right.
what the end goal is, how can you create a plan
Sure.
to create it? And that's what we do for the community. We give them the plan. The plan has been vetted through your experience and the experience of countless others.
Right.
And we put the same exact plan in front of whoever wants to follow it. And we say, don't worry about it. Every day you wake up, just show up here.
Sure.
And you'll see something that we leave for you here that tells you exactly what you need to go and do.
Right.
We continue to do it consistently. And we believe that if they do that, there is a high probability that they might get to your level of success.
Oh yeah, sure. Definitely.
All right, Ariel, that was a great episode.
Jared, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy that we had the opportunity to finally share my background, share your background, and I look forward to how we're going to dive into this even more.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ariel. Catch you all next time.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye. I hope we got it all. Yeah.
28. Oof.
44 seconds.
You cut it so close.
How do you
Oh boy. That's okay. Yeah. We can take that out.